Well, hello today. How y'all doing? Anyways, I just wanted to come in and look. Hang on a second here. I hate clicking incorrectly at times. I just wanted to come in today. Uh, Hello, Becky. How you doing? Uh, Hit on a couple subjects. Of course, one of them is the Virginia gun rights rally. Uh, I'll kind of hit on that here after a while. Uh, First thing I wanted to hit on uh, is I've noticed a trend lately uh, with a lot of the YouTubers that I follow. Uh, there seems to be a very rash thing going around with the swatting. Uh, I'm sure most people know what swatting is. Uh, there's, like I say, there's several people that I follow on YouTube that have been swatted in the past. Uh, One is a computer tech. Uh, he got swatted once. It was some troll, you know. Uh, but fortunately for him, uh, it's turned out well. He hasn't had any more problems. Uh, some others, I'm doing really good. Becky, how are you doing? Uh, some others that I have followed just in the past 3 months, they there's two different YouTubers that I know of. They both know each other, uh, but each one of them in the period of the last 3 months has each been swatted or had wellness checks done on them uh, over 10 times in a matter of 3 months. Um, and that goes into also internet bullying and basically going after people uh, that are on YouTube. Hello, Bella Rain. Uh, but going after people that are on YouTube that either you don't agree with or you don't like, whatever, uh, for any particular reason, uh, and just basically trying to make their lives a living hell. And the YouTubers that I'm referring to, I'm not going to mention them by name because I don't want to uh, bring any more attention on them uh, than what they already have, especially since I haven't spoke to these people about the situation. Uh, but it's really sad that people that don't have anything better to do with their time get their jollies. Uh, yeah, they have where you can put pictures as your background, and I picked out one of the pictures from uh, when me and my daughter went across country, and I took her to the Grand Canyon and everything. So I took one of my pictures and put it up there. Uh, but the whole internet bullying, of course, we've heard about this uh, with young people uh, feeling like there's uh, nothing they can do about this situation going on, and they end up committing suicide and whatnot. It's the internet is a double-edged sword. Uh, I mean, it's great for getting information out uh, and independent information. Uh, you don't have to. Uh, yeah, kind of rusty. That's one of the pictures I have from a trip I took. Uh, but you've got people that have nothing better to do with their time than to try to make another person's life hell and cause drama. Yes, that is true, Bella Rain. Uh, and one YouTuber I follow is a retired New York police detective, and he's been streaming a lot on this subject lately. Uh, it's just sad that in this day and age, you've got people that, like I say, have nothing better to do with their time than to try to make someone else's life a living hell. Like that somehow makes their life better, you know, uh, for whatever reason. I've never figured out. It doesn't make any sense to me why or what enjoyment they get out of causing drama for other people. Uh, just don't make any sense. Uh, so basically, uh, I think we need to raise the awareness on that whole situation to make sure that people know that that's not something that is okay to do. I mean, not even considering the fact that it's breaking federal laws, uh, like the YouTubers I'm referring to, they've had their lives threatened, they've had their families threatened. It's it's just a really sad situation that someone doesn't have anything better to do with their life than to go around and cause people on YouTube uh, a lot of trouble. Uh, there's a lot of YouTubers, thankfully, that don't have this problem. There, there's some that have. Well, I know of a couple that have well over a couple million subscribers, and either they don't have the problem of being swatted or they don't talk about it. There's a lot of people that probably figure if they ignore it, it'll go away. Uh, I'm not sure. I'm not sure the best defense against people that do this sort of thing. So we really have to, as a community, uh, make sure that this stuff doesn't happen. I mean, most of the people that are here in the chat, uh, we deal with this kind of thing on a daily basis, although it's not near as extreme. But all it takes is that one unstable person that you ban or time out or whatever, and that could cause a problem uh, on down the line. And it's not okay for this type of behavior to be going on all the time. Yes, yes, they love to twist the truth around. They try to make the victim look like uh, the aggressor. Uh, and I hope, I really hope that no one I personally know is ever affected by it. And people that I work with on YouTube, uh, I hope they never have to deal with that situation, because no matter no matter what you do uh, as a YouTube channel, whether you're big, whether you're small, nobody deserves uh, that kind of treatment. Uh, I've seen it before on internet forums, years and years ago. Uh, that used to be uh, the way to communicate over the internet. Uh, and I've seen a lot of bullying and did what I could to stop the situation. But unfortunately, these days, people have burner phones and VPNs and can anonymously call into uh, police anywhere, not only in the US, but anywhere in the world, basically, and cause people issues. I mean, I know there's one person that follows me that's over in Australia. It's kind of neat that we can talk to somebody halfway around the world and get to know them and become friends with them. And that's the great part about the internet. It does bring a lot of people together. I mean, like myself, I'm disabled. I unfortunately haven't been able to work for the past 10 years. So most of my time I spend right here in front of the computer doing one thing or another, playing games or, you know, uh, whatnot, something to keep my brain interested and working. So I have lots of time to play around on YouTube, follow people, watch videos about this, that, and the other. So, like I say, that's something as a worldwide community we need to work on, and it's only going to be by, I guess you could say, peer pressure on these people that do these kind of things, that that's the only way we're going to end it. I mean, people get arrested, they go to jail, and such as that, but it takes so long to catch them. And I forget, I think it was, I forget where it was, but I think it was a year or two ago that someone actually got killed by the police in their own home because of a swatting incident. And that's just a bunch of bullshit. Yeah, I mean, excuse my French, but that's not right. Uh, So that's about all I'm gonna really say on that, because there's only so much you can say about something being wrong, you know. The other point I wanted to hit on, uh, you've got this rally that's going to happen later today. They're in Virginia, in Richmond, uh, outside their capital, and of course, uh, the governor has determined that the people that come out for this gun rights rally can't even have sticks because those might be used as a weapon. Uh, Last I checked, uh, we still had freedom in this country, and uh, just because you have a stick or just because you have a gun, especially if you're legally licensed to carry that gun, the government has no business restricting that right. Uh, Yet the governor is so afraid of the people that he wants these protesters, if you want to call them protesters, or just rally goers, or as I like to call them, the people. He feels that they have to be locked up in some kind of cages to where they can't, quote unquote, be a threat to uh, the state, to the government, whatever they're afraid of. They're afraid of some kind of violence. Well, Antifa's already come out and said that they're discouraging any left-wing organizations to just not be anywhere in the area. They don't want any kind of confrontation. Now, if that's actually the facts, I would have to give him credit for being halfway intelligent, but I don't see all of the Antifa people actually going along with that uh, directive. I just have a feeling that hello, Michael Harris. Uh, I just have a feeling that there's going to be a few people that show up to do nothing more than to cause trouble and try to make uh, some kind of incident happen to make the law-abiding citizens uh, look bad. Uh, we'll see in a few hours, I guess, because it's going on 10 minutes to 3 my time. So in Virginia, it's 10 minutes to 4, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that this rally starts at 8 a.m. Now, once I get off of here, I'm going to lay down and hit to bed. It doesn't happen until 4. So this afternoon, Keisha. Anyways, like I say, uh, I haven't been on agenda free too much today, so I'm not really for sure on the whole timing of it. or it's going on 4 right now, I think is what Keisha's saying. Excuse me. Good Lord. Um, and I really, really hope. Sorry about showing you my bald ass head. I really, really hope that there is no trouble started at this gun rights rally. Yeah, that's what I was thinking after I thought about it. Like I say, I know the law-abiding people are not going there looking for trouble. Uh, but you've got radicals on both sides. Uh, me, oh yeah, because the not all media, but the general consensus of the media is they are anti-gun. Uh, so I can see them framing the whole thing as uh, being nothing but trouble, and that the law-abiding citizens are actually the ones that are causing the trouble. So I can see that narrative being put forward by the media. Uh, and like I said the other day in one of my streams, you've got over 300 million firearms owned in this country. Now, most gun owners own more than one, because there's only 300 million people in the country. But still, even at that, with that many legally, we're not talking about the illegal guns. With that many legal guns being owned by regular civilians, if the legal gun owners were a problem in this country, everyone would know it, and there would not be any shadow of a doubt. But unfortunately, with the major mainstream media, the narrative is going to be guns are bad, gun owners are bad, the NRA is a terrorist organization, trot out whatever the left wing uses as an argument to instill more gun control. And, people need to understand the fact that it's not gun control that that the left is after. They want people control. And if you take away the guns, then you control the people instead of the other way around. Uh, exactly. You're going to have that fringe element on both sides. Exactly. Uh, every gun owner that I know and that I interact with, I mean, the one guy, matter of fact, his land butts right up against mine. He's got a small gun shop just around the corner from me. Like I say, he's got a gun range and everything there behind the shop, and it butts right up against my property. And I can go out my back 40, as I call it, and shoot and uh, do what I want. Uh, but every gun owner I know is very responsible and very safety minded. Uh, I guess you could say I'm fortunate. I've only had to use a gun in self defense one time, and I didn't have to shoot anybody. Uh, but I was glad at that point that I had a firearm to protect not only my life, but my family's life uh, and whatnot. And just like then and now, I lived out in the country in a rural county, and it took 45 minutes for a sheriff's deputy to make it to my house to take this person into custody. Uh, that's basically cutting a long story down to a very short story. And so I'm still in kind of the same situation. I've moved several states away from where I was at that time, but the closest town to me is 8 miles away. I live out in the country. Uh, and even the closest town that's 8 miles away, it's only got a population of 800. And that's the largest town in our county. We have one high school that serves the entire county. I mean, that's how small of a county I live in right now. So you can't depend on the police coming to save your ass. Uh, Now, a lot of the liberals that live in these large cities, they can kind of depend on the police being minutes away, but for the majority of America, uh, the majority of America don't really live in big cities. Uh, there's a lot of people in this country that live in rural areas, and not only do you need firearms for protection, but then you count in, like where I live, uh, I've got varmints, uh, coyotes, wild hogs, uh, all kinds of creatures that are nothing more than a nuisance. That exactly, they're tools. Uh, they're not only are they tools, but they're uh, a protected right. And we weren't granted that right by the government. The founding fathers decided that this was a God-given right to self-defense, and that in order to keep a free country, we all had to be armed just as well as what a standing army would be. There's people that have the viewpoint, well, oh, it's okay for you to have a single shot rifle, but we don't want you having the same kind of gun as what the military has. Well, I got news for them. as civilians can't have the same guns that the military have. We can have a similar weapon, but we can't have machine guns. We can't own fully automatic weapons. I mean, there's some that can, but to get a class 3 federal license in order to own an automatic weapon takes years and a lot of money. And a legal automatic weapon will cost you out the butt. I mean, the average person cannot afford to spend that much on a firearm. I mean, now, like I say, my buddy that lives around the corner, he's a federal licensed gun dealer and everything, and he's went through the process to get a class 3 license. So I mean, if I really want to shoot a fully automatic, all I have to do is go over there and he'll rent you one. Of course, it can't leave his property and all that good stuff. That's right, Becky. It's like I said, if you take the guns away from the people, then you have to have control over the people. The government is no longer in fear of the people. And that's what gun control is all about. Uh, you know, you hear all these people saying we need common sense gun laws and whatnot. How can you argue with common sense gun laws? Because, that sounds good to the average American that has no experience with guns or gun laws. They think, oh, common sense. Common sense for someone that lives in the city is one thing. Common sense for someone that lives in the country is another thing. It's one of those things where you can't completely define what common sense would be. It's not about common sense gun control. It's about people control. That's what it really comes down to. And these legislators and the governor in the state of Virginia, you look at some of the laws that they're trying to push through. A lot of that reminds me of the late 1930s in Germany. I mean, that's a good way for tyrants to take over, is to not be afraid of the people fighting back. Look at Hong Kong or Venezuela or any of these countries that are going through some of the turmoil they have. The government wouldn't be stepping all over the people's rights if those people had the right to own weapons. And generally, the way I was raised, your rights end when it intrudes on my rights. Okay. My right to own any firearm does not affect any other person in this country, because I'm a law-abiding citizen. I can legally carry. I don't go around killing people. It's the criminals that kill people. And, you've always got people saying, oh, well, we need to have this gun law. We need to have that gun law. Because people get these guns and they go out and kill people. Well, why don't we make killing people illegal? Oh, wait a minute. It already is. Maybe we should enforce the laws that we already have on the books. Then we wouldn't need to have all these state or federal lawmakers that that's what their job is just to get reelected and go to the state house or to Congress or whatever. We don't need all these new laws that they push through every year. We don't need all the gun laws that they're pushing because they don't enforce the gun laws that we already have on the books. If they would enforce the gun laws and actually start making sure these criminals are uh, sentenced and kept in jail for their full sentence instead of being turned loose because we've got overcrowded prisons, or he's a good boy, he didn't mean it, you know. The uh, yeah, yeah, exactly, Garth. They basically outlawed guns down there, and the criminals are the only ones that have them. You look at England. England's the same way. The average citizen cannot have a firearm, yet the criminals still find a way to get them. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that, Michael. It's if you're mentally unstable, you shouldn't be able to get a gun. But that on that point, back in the day, back when I was a kid, we used to have state-run insane asylums and mental hospitals uh, that took care of these people. Nowadays, they've done away with those, and a lot of these mentally unstable people are walking amongst us and can go out and get a firearm legally or illegally. Exactly, Garth. Laws and rules are there for the law-abiding citizens. The criminals, by nature, are criminals. They break the law. You know, so no matter what gun laws you enact, the criminals are not going to pay attention to them. I mean, 90% of criminals shouldn't have a gun in the first place. The few that are first time offenders that could legally buy a gun, you know, there's nothing this ain't Minority Report. You can't arrest someone before they've done something. And that's where some of these mass shooters are able to come up with their weapons is when they bought the weapon, it was legal, you know, but then they use that weapon to do something illegal. So yeah, we need better mental health in this country. That I will agree with. We definitely need better mental health, but whether we'll actually see that or not, I mean, And where do you draw the line? I know a lot of people that are on antidepressants that are very stable, law abiding citizens that would never think of hurting anybody else. Should they be denied a right to own a weapon? Or uh, just like these red flag laws, who's to say who poses a danger? You know, if you've got something in for someone, uh, you can call up the cops and say, "Hey, I think Joe Blow might do something, or he's a danger to himself." And the cops come and confiscate the guns and whatnot, and then that person has to go through the court process and everything just to prove that he is stable enough to own weapons. You know, I don't think that's right. I think every person should be afforded due process. And you can't just take personal property away from someone without due process. Uh, there's no easy solution to mass shootings, but years and years ago, I mean, I went through high school in the early '80s. When I was in high school, we never worried about someone coming into the school with a gun. Uh, it was unheard of at the time. Nowadays, people worry about that. What's changed? It's not that there's more guns on the streets, because hell, it used to be easy to buy a gun. You could order one mail order and get it delivered straight to your house and not have to worry about going through an FFL. So it's not the firearms that has caused this shift. It's that we don't take care of the mentally ill anymore. We don't raise our young people correctly. Uh, I mean, anymore, people that discipline their children are looked down upon by a lot of people, you know. And when I say discipline, I don't mean beating the hell out of them, but a spanking on the ass isn't going to kill anybody, and it's not going to hurt anybody. I guarantee you. I didn't have such an easy childhood because my mom and dad made me mind. And you know what? That made me the person I am today. And about the only laws I think I ever break is maybe a speeding law every now and then. And those are all misdemeanors, things that don't really affect you. Uh, if the truth be known, I don't think there's anybody that drives a vehicle that hasn't at some point broke a traffic law here or there. But I mean, as far as something that you could have your rights taken away from you for, or that you should have your rights taken away because of, uh, that's a pretty uh, what am I trying to say here? It's uh, it's a pretty high bar that you have to reach to take someone's constitutional rights away. And, you know, you've got these people, they're all for freedom of speech, for instance, as long as it's their speech. If you have a differing viewpoint, you shouldn't be allowed to say that. Well, that's not what freedom of speech is. You know, you got to take the good with the bad. I mean, every constitutional amendment that we have is there for a reason, for the most part. Of course, the one I don't agree with, it was repealed, you know, back in the day, the abolition of alcohol. Technically, I think we ought to make some drugs legal. Not that I want to go out and do these drugs, but it would definitely cut down on a lot of the criminal element, and take the non-violent offenders that are in prison out of the prison system. I mean, you've got people that go to prison for simple pot possession or selling pot, but they're not going around killing people or anything. Those are the people that really aren't hurting anybody. Use that space in the prisons for these hardened criminals that do hurt people, that do rape people, that do kill people. Those are the people that need to be locked up. Right, exactly. And, you know, the last time I checked, freedom of speech, like I've said before, that's a misunderstood right in itself. Freedom of speech basically protects your right to protest the government, and the government cannot take any kind of legal action against you for anything you say about the government. Doesn't mean I can run into Becky's house and start spouting whatever bullshit I want to spout and expect her to sit there and listen to it. That's not what what freedom of speech covers. I mean, it's just like you go into some of these internet chat rooms like this one. It's my channel, so I can basically set the rules for the chat. Now, so far, I haven't seen any reason to do that. Of course, I've got a small little channel. It's not an issue. If I see hate speech or something like that, yeah, I'm going to come down on it. And so will the mods that I have, because they're used to dealing with that kind of thing. But it's just like anything. All rights have some kind of limitations, I guess you could say. But I think with every right has responsibilities, and I don't feel like the average American should be giving up any rights that they have. Because if we give up one right, the government's going to come back and say, well, they gave up that right pretty easily. Now we can go after this other one. I don't think that's a good precedent to set. You know, this, well, nobody needs an AR-15. Well, I don't know. I might. I don't know. But need has nothing to do with it. Eh, it's a lot more lax, I guess you could say. Uh, I'm not going to get upset if someone disagrees with me or uh, whatnot. That's what I'm here for. I want to interact with all the people that come in uh, and have an honest back and forth. The basic thing is you treat the other chatters with respect. You treat me with respect, and you're going to get that back. Uh, I just feel that that's the best way to have an honest dialogue. And that's basically uh, what I try to do here is have an honest dialogue. You can disagree with me all you want as long as you do it respectfully. Uh, yeah, yeah, we've got hogs down here. And I guarantee you the AR-15 comes in real handy for those. The AR-15 comes in real handy for coyotes. Uh, you know, it's it's a it's a well-made rifle. There's a lot more powerful rifles out there than an AR. Of course, any more ARs come in just about any caliber you would want. Uh, not every AR is a 223 or a 5.56. You've got some that are, you know, 50 cal. It just depends. AR is just the basic layout. The most popular caliber is the 223. Uh, I mean, I have one AR. I've got shotguns. I've got several different weapons, long guns and handguns. Uh, I'm a very big supporter of the Second Amendment. I'm very passionate about the right to bear arms. But then again, I'm very passionate about all of our constitutional rights. Uh, because without one, you can't really have the others. Uh, and let's face it, you know, the country's been around for well over 200 years, and it hasn't really been a big issue until the last 20 years or so. And like I say, the biggest factor to me is the concerning trend of how willing people are to give up their rights. You give up your right to one thing, then the government is going to come back uh, to come after another right. I like my AR. Uh, a lot of people like it because it's a very easy to handle weapon. It doesn't have a lot of recoil uh, to it. Uh, Now, once you start getting into the higher calibers, then you're going to have a lot more recoil. But with it being a gas operated rifle, that takes a lot of the recoil out. So it helps you uh, make follow up shots. Uh, but then again, I've got an SKS that basically does the same thing, yet it's not the boogeyman, you know. Uh, just about every rifle I have is a semi-automatic. Of course, my shotguns are not. Uh, my handguns, most of them are revolvers. My daily carry is a semi-automatic. Uh, and yeah, well, like I say, you know, if they decriminalize a lot of the drugs, like marijuana, for example, you decriminalize that, you're going to take a lot of the people that are in the prison system and take them out of it, and then you will have all the room for the hardened criminals that are being let out early on parole and probation and everything, that those people shouldn't be let out early, but they're letting them out early because Joe Blow was selling marijuana down on the corner. You know, that's where some of our priorities get screwed up. Is we lock people up for petty crimes and let murderers and rapists go free because there's too many people that committed a petty crime uh, in jail. Yeah, I've got, as far as that goes, I've only got one 20 gauge shotgun, and then the rest are 12 gauge. Uh, my favorite is my over under 12 gauge. I use that for trap shooting and whatnot. Yeah, exactly, Becky. We're, you know, especially at the time of day that I usually go live, uh, and that's only because of my internet, which hopefully maybe uh, I might be doing something as far as my internet goes to where I might be able to start broadcasting at a decent hour of the day. I would love nothing more than that, and to be able to sleep at night. But hopefully, I'm looking into satellite. I've had satellite internet before, and I didn't like the data limits. But this one outfit I'm looking at, for basically the same price as I pay for my shitty ass DSL, I can get a satellite plan that has quite a bit of data to it. So I'm seriously considering doing that. The only part about it I don't like is that when the weather's bad, you lose your freaking internet. But I mean, it, we get bad thunderstorms here, but that's a temporary thing. The only time it would really knock me out for any period of time is if we get a hurricane that comes through. And if a hurricane comes through, I'm probably going to lose power anyway, so I wouldn't have internet anyways. So right now, like I say, I'm seriously considering switching to satellite. The only thing is, I don't want to get locked into a 2-year contract with it, and then have the DSL company come through and say, "Oh, we're upgrading it," or have my electric co-op 2 months from now say, "Hey, we're gonna run high-speed internet to all our customers." I don't want to get into a 2-year contract and have something like that happen. But I figure before I get really good internet, it would probably be at least 2 years till that time. So I'm really leaning towards getting that satellite. Like I say, I don't like it. I've had it before, but it was definitely faster than what the internet is that I get now. And I could actually broadcast during the day. As it is right now, I have to make sure all the kids are in school and everyone's at work, or broadcast at this time of night. Freaking hell of a situation, but that's one of them things where living in the country comes with a price. And I like living in the country. I was born and raised in a suburb of LA, and since the time I was, let's see, I'd say for the past 25 years, I've lived in the country rather than living in a city. And to me, the quality of life is just so much better in the country. Well, yeah, I there's a lot of rumbling going on about high speed internet. Uh, I know my DSL company is supposedly, by the tech that comes out whenever I have an issue, supposedly they're going to upgrade the system throughout the county. But there again, it's going to take time. You know, it's not going to happen overnight. And my state just passed law saying that electric cooperatives could start offering high speed internet. Well, my electric co op has been studying that for well over 6 months, and they have not made any determination yet on whether it's financially feasible to offer high speed internet. You know, it's one of them things where it's they put out a survey to all of the customers asking how much you'd be willing to pay. And I'm like, well, hell, I pay $100 a month for crappy ass DSL right now. I'd be more than willing to pay, $125, $150 for decent internet. But like I say, living in the country does come at a price. I wish I was like Steve in that respect, where he has hellacious internet. You know, I mean, it's super fast, but he also lives in the city and lives in an apartment building and all that. And I can't I can't live that way. Uh, I just, I can't live right on top of my neighbors and all that. I'm a very independent type person. Uh, Being a truck driver, as long as I was a truck driver, you know, you got to be an independent breed to be able to make that job work. Uh, you got to be able to work without someone looking over your shoulder all the time. But like I say, I'm I'm really curious how this is going to shape up today out there in Virginia. Uh, Thankfully, my state, I don't have to worry about that. My state is a constitutional carry, so I can open carry or conceal carry without having to ask the government for a permit. Um, Looking at getting into driving trucks. If I don't know what your age is, I don't know if you're married or not. Uh, I drove over the road for roughly 11 years before I finally found a good local job. Uh, During that 11 years of being over the road, uh, I did get married and divorced. Basically, my first wife couldn't handle the fact that I wasn't home all the time. Uh, but I would stay out for roughly 3 weeks at a time. Uh, oh, okay. Okay, yeah. Well, you know, now uh, they're kicking around. I keep up on a lot of the trucking stuff. Right now, they're kicking around the idea of allowing 18-year-olds to start driving uh, interstate trucks because they say there's such a driver shortage. I don't know if there's so much of a driver shortage as there is good paying truck driving job shortage. Uh, a lot of these really big companies just don't pay what a driver is really worth. And I'll tell you right now, as far as that goes, you go into trucking, there's a lot of work that you do not get paid for. Because the way trucking basically works is you get paid by the mile, and if that truck ain't rolling, you ain't making no money, and you spend a lot of time getting loaded, a lot of time getting unloaded, and your hours that you can legally drive uh, are regulated by the government. Uh, you can only drive 11 hours a day. So that, I mean, nowadays it's a whole different ball of wax. When I drove, we had paper log books. You could fudge your log and cheat and make good money. Nowadays, okay, yeah. Nowadays with the electronic logs, you can't really cheat them. you know. But if you find a good company that pays good, it can be a good living, especially if you're an independent type person. If you can make sure that, you know, you get from point A to point B in the time that you've got to get there, then you're pretty much free to kind of do it the way you want to do it. That was the part of the job I liked. Uh, as long as, well, that was one way of doing it. The last the last company I drove for over the road, we just run loose leaf log books, and I run from St. Louis out to the West Coast and picked up produce and took it back to St. Louis. So that was a constant for me. Uh, and every time that I would leave St. Louis, magically, I just came off of a week's worth of vacation. So I'd start out with a brand new 70 hours every week. I made damn good money, but illegal as hell. Oh, I'm not really worried about getting it monetized. Good Lord, I need. Uh, I think you need something like 4,000 uh, watch hours, and I think you have to have like a thousand subscribers. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not Steve Lookner. I'm not doing this to make a living. That's how Steve makes his living, is off of YouTube. Me, I've got my disability and I've got my retirement, so I'm not doing YouTube to make a living. I'm doing YouTube. Uh, well, I guess a lot of different reasons. The main reason is to be doing something to keep myself active. Uh, I've always been under the belief that if you sit around and don't do anything with your brain, that you'll end up losing what brain you have. Whereas if you're constantly working your brain, uh, you're gonna stay healthier, even though my health in the past 10 years hasn't been all that great. But of course, I do a lot of things I'm not supposed to do, like smoke and shit like that. But yeah, to get back to the gun rights rally, I really hope that there won't uh, be anything bad that comes out of it. I know, uh, like at Agenda Free, there's a lot of chatters that come into Agenda Free that they just want something to happen. And it doesn't matter whether it was the Iran U.S. Tensions from a couple weeks ago. I mean, they were wanting World War III, and most of us that have been around the block a time or two, not only did we not want it, but I seen pretty early on that it really wasn't going to amount to anything. If anything, at worst, it would just be a regional conflict in the Persian Gulf. Yeah, exactly, exactly. And it's that way with any story that Steve covers on Agenda Free. You're going to have that 10% that come in just looking to cause trouble, but the 90% of the chatters are actually there to get the news and to chat about the news with other viewers. Uh, well, I don't, on that, uh, I went in the military right out of high school. Uh, and of course, after I got out, I was still registered with Selective Service. But as far as bringing the draft back, I don't see that happening. Uh, I mean, it would have to be major shit hitting the fan and a complete world war before they would try to bring the draft back. Uh, I mean, even if we got into a situation like Vietnam, I don't think they would have the draft. You know, like I say, it would have to be something on the scale of World War II uh, for them to bring the draft back. So, I mean, someone like yourself that's of age to be drafted, I really don't think that uh, young people today have to worry about that. Uh, yeah, and that's just it, though. You know, like I say, a lot of times, uh, someone my age, we've been around the block a time or two. We've seen international crises before, and the likelihood of another world war is very slim. I'm not saying it couldn't happen. It very well could. But I don't see Trump being involved in it at all because, honestly speaking, all these people that say that Trump wanted a war so he could get reelected, uh, we're looking at it completely wrong. Trump's actually been trying to get us out of the Middle East. Uh, and with as much controversy and as split as the country is, uh, I don't think being involved in a war would make sure that he gets reelected. I think the opposite is the case, uh, because the past 3 years that Trump's been in office, we've had low unemployment uh, across the board. Doesn't matter what race or religion you are. It's We're a lot better off financially uh, than where we have before Trump come into office. Uh, so I think if a war were to start, it would actually hurt Trump more than it would help him. Because, you take Iraq and Afghanistan. We've been in those two countries now for almost 20 years each. I mean, that's a lot longer than World War II ever lasted. Uh, and this country doesn't want another 20-year war or war without end. So if Trump were to start a war with Iran, I think it would really hurt his chances at reelection. I think as long as he kind of uh, stays with the status quo and keeps doing like he's been doing, he's going to get reelected, because the left right now, the Democrat Party, has moved too far left. Uh, it's not like the Democrat Party of old. And people just are not ready to chuck everything and become a socialist nation. Americans are just too independently minded to rely on the government. Yes, there's a certain segment that wants nothing more than not have to work for a living and let the government take care of them and everything. But they're greatly outnumbered by the majority of Americans that are pursuing the American dream. This country is just not ready to be a socialist country. It's not ready for socialism. It's not ready for communism. We're too freedom-minded. It's just like, I don't know if our one mod that's from England took any offense a while back, but I was talking about the royal family and how that is such a foreign concept to me, to have a king or a queen, you know, and how I was nobody's subject. For someone that grew up in England, oh yeah, oh, I would love nothing more than to have a big audience. Uh, I'd like to get my message out to people. Uh, I think I have some good views to offer. Uh, I don't. That's something that, uh, you know, as with working with Steve, that's one thing I don't get to do. Is as a mod, we have to stay pretty narrow to where we're not leaning one way and we're not leaning another way. We got to go straight down the middle. And that is one thing I like about Steve, is not in all cases, but he is very fact-minded, and he doesn't give you the media spin on things. He just reports the facts. Uh, Politics-wise, which I can't really say for sure which way Steve leans. He's showing a lot of the Democrat debates and everything, but that's that's only because there's no one really running against Trump for the Republican nomination, so there's not really any debates to have yet. Uh, Once the Democrats choose their nominee, then Trump and whoever their nominee is will be having debates, and that'll really show us uh, in that respect whether Steve can stay agenda free down the center, and I hope he can. Uh, because that's the whole premise of agenda free. Uh, so don't take me wrong. I'm not saying he's not. I'm just saying uh, that come I I don't the Democrats have their convention in June or something like that? I think in somewhere around June. Once that comes about and you have a Democrat nominee, then we'll really see some good debates between Trump and whoever the nominee is. Uh, and right now, with the field that the Democrats have, there's not one that really stands out as someone that's electable at this point. Yeah, exactly, Becky. Uh, the days of just throwing people at the enemy are kind of behind us. I mean, that's not to say we don't have the infantry and whatnot, but nowadays so much is technological. You know, I mean, even infantry weapons are very technical now. Uh, Tanks are so technical now, uh, and so computerized. And honestly, uh, I think the next big thing, like in tanks, is going to be unmanned tanks. Just like we have unmanned drones flying and doing a lot of what pilots used to be doing. You've got pilots still, but they sit at a computer terminal. And I honestly think that when the Abram when the Abrams tank has finished its usefulness, I think the replacement will be uh, unmanned. Uh, you'll probably have somebody sitting in a computer room halfway across the world still controlling the tank, but they're not going to be uh, in harm's way. The tank will be, but the person controlling it will not be. Uh, Technology is a double-edged sword because no matter what you do, uh, no matter what kind of computer system you have, it's still going to have uh, some way to break into it and hack it. Because every time they come out with a fix, there's always some hacker that's got another way to defeat that fix. I mean, just look at uh, Pensacola had a major cyber attack. Last month, New Orleans had a major cyber attack. Uh, and that's becoming more the 22nd century uh, battleground now. You're going to find that a lot of the battles and everything are all technological. I, I really, I really believe that. I mean, you just look at how far computers have come in the last 20 years. You know, uh, the technology is advancing so fast. Yeah, you know, you figure last year marked 40 years of the Ayatollah type rule in Iran. And before before that happened, when they had the Shah, Iran was a very open and free place. Uh, but when the radical Muslims took over, that's when Iran went backwards. And our whole trouble started uh, when the Shah come down with cancer and Jimmy Carter let the Shah come into the U.S. for cancer treatment. And unfortunately, that did not work out well. And we've been paying for it ever since. Yeah, like I said, the American people are too independently minded for socialism or communism. I have faith in the younger generation. Uh, you know, a lot of the younger people get a really bad rap for being so uh, socialist and expecting free schooling and free this and free that. But, honestly, uh, where where I live, for sure, I don't see that out of the younger people. They're like any other generation that came before them. It's it's just they go out, they do what they have to do, and they're not loud about it. It's the uh, radical people that make so much noise, and that gives young people a bad rap. Yeah, I mean, it's like that all over the country. You know, you don't hear about that section of the younger generation. You hear about the far left wing of the younger generation, which is not the majority. You know, it's like the old saying: the squeaky wheel gets the oil. Even in it depends on that. I mean, like where I grew up in a suburb of LA, uh, it was still pretty conservative at the point. Uh, and it used to drive my mom and dad, well, mainly my mom, because I lost my dad pretty early on, but it used to drive my mother crazy because she couldn't understand how with my dad being a Democrat and her being a Democrat, all of a sudden I come out and I was Republican. Yet when you'd sit down and talk to my mom and listen to her viewpoints were very conservative, but she was stuck in that generational thinking of the Democratic Party. She never realized how the Democrat Party moved so far left that those Democrats got left behind, and only the radicals are still true. I won't even say true Democrats because they're not. The main part of the party went left. Uh, and honestly speaking, if the Democrats ever want to win elections again, they're going to have to come back to the center, because that's where most Americans are, is center. They're not, you know, totally right wing, and they're not totally left wing. Most Americans are closer to the center. The media makes a big deal about how far apart this country is split. I think honestly, when it comes down to it, they're not really as far split apart as what they make out, because these people that you always hear about in the news that are the never Trumpers and all this shit, they're the ones that the media covers. You know, uh, it's kind of like the old saying, if it bleeds, it leads. It makes for good TV. And the news channels, they have to sell commercials. They got to go where the money is. You know, and like I say, most Americans ain't like that. Now you've got the loony left, the Hollywood left, that, oh my God, if you listen to them, everything is our fault. The climate change is all humans' fault. Well, last I checked, when you go back through history, climate changes back and forth all the time without humans even being on the planet. You know, so this man-made climate change, they're looking at a very tiny period of time over billions of years. You can't get a good judge of what the climate's doing over a short period of time when the planet is billions of years old. You know, people have been on this planet for a very, very short period of time. And in that short period of time, I don't think that man has that much power over the planet. Now, I may turn out to be wrong, but I really don't think that man has that much control over this planet. You look at how much pollutants that just one volcano puts into the environment compared to how much pollutants humans put into the environment. You know, there's no comparison. I mean, you've got people that make a living off of going around saying that the world's going to end. Back in the day, if you listen to Al Gore, we should all be underwater by now. Nobody can say 100% what's going to happen 20 years from now or 200 years from now. Yeah, and that goes back to the internet being a double-edged sword. The young people of today have a lot of information at their fingertips that we as the older generation never had when we were that age. But then you've got these people that are going backwards that think the earth is flat and all this, and they have a place on the internet to spout this complete utter bullshit, and they get people to buy into it. So like I say, it's a double-edged sword. There's a lot of good things about the internet, but then again, there's a lot of shit out there that just makes us dumber. I'll be right back. Oh, did y'all miss me while I was gone? Sure you did. Well, uh, that's the good thing about the internet. That's the good side that I'm referring to when I say there's a lot of good out there. You take, for example, sites like Agenda Free, or there's other sites out there that are on Twitter and whatnot that give you fact-based news. The nice thing about Steve is he brings all these different sources together to kind of get to the meat of the issue. And that's the good thing. You don't have to watch the mainstream media anymore to get your information and news. But anyways, I went on for what? Over an hour now? Uh, I'm not even sure. Uh, let's see. Wow. Okay. I was vastly off. I'm already up to an hour and 45 minutes. I get to talking sometimes and I just go. But like I say, I pretty much covered uh, the whole internet bullying and swatting deal. I think that's something that we really, as a people, need to work on. Uh, Hopefully it'll get better, but I'm afraid it'll get worse before it gets better. And then, like I say, with the Virginia gun rights rally, I really, I know it's uh, unrealistic to think that it'll do any good to have the rally, because with a Democrat governor and Democrat state senate and a Democrat state house, they're not going to, all these people going to the Capitol and everything, they're not going to change the Democrats' minds. Yep, you take care. Nice having you in here. I appreciate you coming in and viewing. Uh, but like I say, nothing's going to change the Democrats' mind at this point. They've got the House, they've got the Senate, they've got the governorship. They're going to push through what they want to push through. Doesn't matter what the people want. Doesn't matter what happens tomorrow, good or bad. They're still going to push the laws through. And that's a really sad state of affairs. And they're going to find that it's going to turn around and bite them in the ass come next election, because people do have a memory. Uh, yeah, yeah, I agree with you on that, Becky. You know, I think we should all be a lot more proud of the country and be willing to work towards an ultimate goal and work together towards it. But unfortunately, the radical left has lost sight of that. And, you know, for that matter, the radical right has also lost sight of that. Uh, on that end of the spectrum, you got the neo Nazis and all that bullshit, and then on the left side, you've got the socialist and everything. But like I say, I really believe that 99% of Americans are more towards the center. You know what I mean? They, and like, it was such a close election the last time. And I think a lot of that was due to Trump being uh, very blunt. He doesn't beat around the bush. He's not a politician. When he says something, he kind of means it, you know. Uh, like I said the other day, there's some things about Trump I don't like. Like some of his views when it comes to guns, you know. Uh, After that one mass shooting, he's like, "Well, we should take the guns first and worry about the due process later." I don't agree with that. But as a whole, I agree with Trump on the economy and the Supreme Court choices and things that move our country forward and make the people proud to be Americans and give us something better to strive for. Whereas the Democrats, I mean, you look at it right now, like these Democratic debates. I didn't even watch the last one because I knew it's going to be the same old bullshit. How many giveaways can we give to get your vote? You know, we need free health care and free college tuition. And let's give the people $1,000 a month for doing absolutely nothing. And, you know, that all sounds good on paper, but we don't live in a paper society. If you give someone free money of $1,000 a month, let's just use that as an example, then you're going to find that everything in the economy goes up in price. People are going to charge more for rent because they know everyone's got this extra money. They can afford to pay more now. Your gas will go up, your cars will go up because there's more money available, so everything's going to cost more. So, you know, as far as that goes, it all sounds really good until you start looking at the big picture. You know, these college kids nowadays are like, oh, free college would be great because then we wouldn't have to pay back all that tuition and all that. Well, that just gives them more disposable income. You think they're not going to come along and try to find a way to get that disposable income back from you, whether it be in taxes or, you know, whatever, lower wages. Uh, Free stuff is great until you have to pay for it. That's the thing they don't stop and consider is that uh, free is not free. We all pay for it. But you can't convince people on the left of this. And I think here in a few minutes, I'm at 6 minutes shy of 2 hours. And I don't want to just keep rambling on, so I'm going to cut it off at the 2 hour mark. That's 2 hours plenty. You know what I mean? And I would like to get some sleep at some point. Uh, Yeah, it's good seeing uh, everyone come in and watching. Uh, it should be interesting. Uh, Hopefully, like I say, if I get my internet changed around to where I can do my YouTube stuff during the day, I think I'll get a lot more viewers. Um, but unfortunately, at this time of day, that limits me right there. You know, so uh, I think I'm gonna have to make a change on that. And whether I like it or not, I'm gonna have to get better internet. Uh, oh, there's Mr. Contow Creep Paul. How the heck are you? Driving? Oh, that's right. You're up there in Canada. It's not a holiday today. I gotcha. I keep forgetting about that. You and Garth both had to work today, whereas a lot of us other folks had the day off. Of course, every day is unfortunately a day off for me. Trust me, I wish it was much different. Oh, well, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, you know, for something like that, yeah, you're going to get an audience for that. Uh, but unfortunately, with me just starting out, uh, doing it at this time of day, you're not going to catch a lot of people, you know. Uh, so I think being able being able to come on like of an evening, uh, like when my internet is the worst right now, and my internet's so bad at that time of day because people have gotten off of work and they're online and they're watching TV over the internet and the kids are not in school and they're, you know, you can tell what time of day it is by your internet speed here. So I think as far as that goes, I'm going to have to make a change. I don't really like going switching to satellite. I don't like the fact of having to lock into a 2 year commitment, but honestly, I think it would take at least 2 years for either my internet company to upgrade their system or for the electric co-op to completely roll out high speed internet. I mean, if it gets me through that 2 year period to where at the end of that 2 year period, I do have high speed internet available to me, uh, even if it's just after a year, I'd pay the penalty to get out of it if reliable high speed came to my house. But we know it takes time for all that infrastructure to be made. And in my rural county, it would take longer than what it would in a city because uh, just the amount of uh, lines they would have to run just between one house to another. Uh, like I say, it's very rural here, and you don't have neighbors right on top of neighbors, uh, which is why I like it. You know, I'm sure you probably have the same situation up where you're at, Contal, because I know you drive quite a distance to get to work and back. So, but yeah, we're right at 2 hours right now. So I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I appreciate everybody that came in tonight. Uh, I hope to catch you a little bit more often. And like I say, hopefully, uh, I don't think it would be this month because I haven't decided to pull the trigger yet. But maybe come February, maybe I'll have a better internet connection and can stream during the evening, mainly when Steve's not streaming, because I don't want to interfere with that. I appreciate it, Becky. I'm trying, I'm learning, uh, and hopefully things will get better each stream. I'm actually surprised tonight that my internet's pretty much held up pretty good. I haven't seen any major lag or buffering. So I'm kind of happy about that. And I'm on my main computer. I'm not on the other one that I normally stream on. So maybe I'm getting things kind of situated. But like I say, I'm going to call this a wrap, and I will catch y'all a little bit later. Hopefully, like I say, hopefully nothing major happens uh, at this rally today. Becky, you have my phone number. If anything major breaks, you can give me a call. Otherwise, I'm probably going to be sleeping, I hope. God, I hope. But I appreciate everybody, and we'll catch you next time.